yeah, we'll kick off. Why not? The stream has started, I think. Welcome everybody.
Are you megaphone?
This is our weekly Space Makers. I think I am. Am I not?
Just got a megaphone.
Yeah.
Yeah,
yes,
you are.
you are megaphone.
Yeah, you're good.
Okay,
Mhm.
cool.
Okay.
Rejoin visa.
Yeah, this is our weekly Space Makers. At the minute, it's actually every 2 weeks because we're alternating and doing an Avatar Makers event instead. So this week is Space Makers. Next week will be Avatar Makers. In fact, we might run it a little bit earlier, possibly next week, to see if we can accommodate a different time zone. We're only doing 2 of those events, so I want to just make sure that we can get everybody a chance to be part of the conversation. Yeah, so this event is generally about making spaces in Banter. We do this as kind of like a Q&A session, so I stand up here and you can make your way up into the podium, and then as you jump over onto the bit that it's all slippery and it bounces, and if you can stay on, I'll answer your question. If you don't manage to stay on, then you go into purgatory for 20 minutes and you have to wait and make your way up. So that's how that works. I should point to the website. I think it's probably important to say or start saying from here on out that the documentation and a lot of stuff is going to be changing very soon, right? SDK v2 is imminent, and mostly this week I've been working on trying to fix up some bugs and polish off some issues with the paintball game that I'm building with it, right? But after that, once we've got that working and we're happy that that's good, it's just going to be about generating some documentation, seeing if there's any more polishing that we can do with the SDK, adding in a couple of extra bull scripts here and there, and then probably working with some creators to test it out, right? So we'll likely have a couple of weeks where we'll just give it out to a couple of select people to try and get some last minute feedback, anything serious that needs to be changed before it goes out to the wider audience, let's say. And at which point what we're going to do then is probably push the current documentation into a legacy section on the website. It'll still be there because for a lot of things it actually still works, of course. But yeah, we'll have hopefully a whole new documentation section there talking about all the new awesome bull script that's in the new SDK. So yeah, that's what I'll say. I'd say one thing that is important here that won't change, right, is the Discord link. That's the best place to come and have a chat. Most of you are already in there. You could talk with me, my team, anybody else who's building worlds or avatars in Banter. So that's pretty much it in terms of my intro. So yeah, I mean, like I say, anybody wants to make their way up to the podium, I'll be happy to answer their question. And until that time, let's talk about ponies. Oh.
Yep.
Oh.
Go ahead. Talk about
Nope.
ponies.
You can climb up there.
I don't know what to do.
You first.
Fight.
First.
Okay, both of you. Fight. Have a play fight. Let's go. Go, have a slap fight.
Well, I can't.
Lee wins.
It's just
Lee
a real
wins,
quick
okay.
one. Is there any good
Go ahead.
video tutorials of how to upload a world from another platform?
From another platform.
Yeah.
I guess it would depend on the platform, really, as to how complicated
chat.
that might be. In the case of VR chat, probably the tutorial that Faye created is the most up-to-date one that you could use right now. Because generally, importing from VR chat is honestly usually pretty simple. Assuming you don't rely on a lot of specific functionality in VR chat, we use the same render pipeline. They obviously also use Unity. A lot of stuff pretty much works. And in a lot of VR chat projects, you'd be able to simply pull in the Banter SDK and, drag your scene file over and hit build, and it should just work. Some of the things that you're going to run into trouble with that there really isn't a solution for, if I'm honest. But VR chat uses Udon scripting, Udon Sharp. This is what they use in order to add functionality to objects within your scene in VR chat, right? That's not compatible with Banter and would need to be converted. There is no automated process to do that. maybe in the future you might be able to throw some of the scripts at ChatGPT along with maybe a snippet of our documentation and have it figure out all the nuts and bolts. But in reality, it's a rewrite, right? It's a rewrite from scratch in a lot of cases with things like that, right? So, but in terms of content, in terms of scenes, static content within the scene, or even some dynamic stuff that leverages Unity functionality, things like shaders, like animations, all of that kind of stuff would just pretty much transfer over as is without too much hassle.
Okay. Yeah, I was just trying to find a simple tutorial to get a world from VR chat to here. And it's for like our friend Jen. I think everybody knows. She's
Oh
kind
yes,
of confused on what to or how to get things over here.
gotcha. Well, let's let her know to just jump into the Discord. We'll be happy to help out, of course. I think in future, we're going to have a whole load of this tutorial content updated, right? Because mostly what you're talking about there involves the Unity plugin that we have, and that's about to get a whole new revamp in terms of how it works and how you can generally use it within Unity. So we'll have a whole new set of tutorial videos there. But in the meantime, Phase Video is probably a great one to
The best.
start with. Yeah, if you're already familiar with some stuff, you can probably skip past some of the entry level stuff, some of the beginner stuff. But the parts about getting it into banter are definitely valid.
Okay. Awesome. Okay.
Cheers.
Pony. Me.
Pony, yeah, Pony wants to talk about. Go ahead, Pony. You tell us. I'll make a phone you.
Actually, I've got one thing to ask. I'll get where I'm supposed to go. 1 second. Get over here. Right. I uploaded the latest build to your Banting server.
Yes.
Now I've got a more updated version, and I clicked on the updates and updated the Android and the Windows file.
Yes.
But when I load my world up in here, it still takes me to my previous version. What have I missed?
So what you need to do is basically bust the cache. This is much like we've always done it with Glitch in the past, where you add a query string onto the end of the URL path in the index.html. Now, I fully recognize how much of a pain that is. We recognize that at the moment that we put it out.
Yeah.
And we're working on a solution that won't require you to ever do that again. And in future, you just load straight into Banter. It will give you the latest one. In a nutshell, how that works, Banter itself will cache worlds inside your device, on your Quest or on your PC every time you load them to make that loading faster. And right now, it will only know to break or bust that cache whenever the URL for the file changes. What we're working on is adding in some more detection on when the file was last modified, using some other things like cache control and things called e-tags to try to know when that file has been changed, when you've uploaded a new version, to know when to bust that local cache. That's the technical answer to what we're talking about. But in future, you won't have to do that. For now, you just
Gotcha.
need to put !1 after the the URL to the asset bundle itself, right? So you've got
Gotcha.
SQ asset bundle in there. Just put !1 at the end, and then increment that as you make updates, and that will bust the cache. You can
Gotcha.
also hit clear cache and reload. That should also work too, but only for
Gotcha.
you, obviously.
Yes. Only for me. Right, jump. Thank you.
Do you want to ask your other question while you're there? Should we talk about that?
What the gravity question?
Yeah, the lift.
Yes,
The lift question.
the
Maybe
lift.
I'll
Oh yes,
phone to Ling.
yes, yes. The lift question. If Lynn
How do
had
we
been
get
into
people to
my
move
latest,
fast?
yes. How do we get the winter retreat one? Not winter retreat. Yeah, whatever it's called, that one.
Yeah, the winter sport resort. The lift.
Well, yeah,
that
winter.
goes up.
That's it. Yeah, that's it. Mind had gone blank. Yes, the lift that goes
That's
up.
all right.
That I suppose that's just a 0G trigger. But I wanted people to move. I have a lift platform you stand on, and if it goes too fast, it forces you through it. And I tried starting it slow and speeding up, and it's fine. But when it gets a bit further up and it's even faster, you just fall through it still. So I added rigid body, usual, and I decided to add a lower gravity above it. I only knocked the gravity. It was supposed to be 9.82 or something like that, and it's 9.81 now. As soon as you hit that trigger, you've gone. That lift don't keep up with you, and it's like,
I assume you're using an animation for your lift. Is that right?
yes, animation for the lift. Yes.
Yeah, so that's the problem. You actually animating the transform and not the rigid body. So we have this little helper script in the SDK. It's called follow animation. So what you want to do is just animate an empty game object, and then you put on your lift object with the colliders and the rigid body, you put the script follow animation. And there you assign the object that's actually animated. So the script will essentially just copy the transforms and paste it into the rigid body transforms each frame. And this will prevent you from falling through. And you will also stick to your lift and not, slide around.
That's marvelous. Thank you. That simplifies things a lot. I've gone the really long way around trying to sort it out. Yeah, the usual.
Awesome.
I usually miss that bit. Right, thank you.
And well, while we're here, Aline, is there any sense in ramping up that speed slowly? You know, so it's not a sudden, massive amount of speed, and instead it's a slower acceleration, right? Would that make it possible to reach even higher speeds?
Yeah, absolutely. So for one, the follow animation script has a follow speed. So it actually lerps towards the target position, which you can say set quite low. For example, if you just set it to 1, it will have a serious delay and will smooth out the movement of your original object. This means when your animated object will just start moving fast, the follow animation object will start accelerating until it hits the speed, but it will always try to make a smooth acceleration and not just go from 0 to 100.
Right, yeah.
I just recommend playing around with it, especially with low values around
Yes.
1.
Marvelous. Thank you.
There you are, Pony.
I will get that lift working so we can actually get up in a few seconds instead of about 10 minutes.
What's the name of that space that we all got to see yesterday at Space Hopper?
Infinite Castle.
And what's the remind me again? There's some inspiration, some anime that's based on. Is that right?
It's based on the Demon Slayer season
Nice.
3, to be precise.
Gotcha. That was the video it was on, of course. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, crazy space. Anybody who hasn't seen it, it left me with. I was pretty shaken, right? I'm terrified of heights, so it was. It's definitely one of those spaces. So yeah, cheers for that, Pony.
Sure.
Really awesome space. Cyrus, go ahead. If you can make it onto the podium, there you go.
All right. So yeah, I'm a Quest user, but I'm interested in like being able to have my own spaces for events instead of having to use other people's. Is there
Yes.
any possible way to like get someone to help me build spaces, even though like, I don't have a PC myself?
I mean, yeah, I feel like there's a lot of that goes on within the community that people sort of generally like to help out. I mean, it can sometimes be a lot of work to create a space, especially
Mhm.
from scratch. So what I could
Yeah.
advise is that you could check out sites like Sketchfab and look for some environments
Mhm.
on there that might give you a starting point. Or any of the spaces that maybe we have. If it's one of ours, I'm sure we'll be happy to let you take it and modify it. Or if it's
Yeah.
somebody else's space, I'm sure that can be just a conversation
Mhm.
really with them, you know. But
Yeah, like Vanquisher right now is letting me use Banter for my event coming up.
gotcha. Yeah. Well, I mean, I think there's also loads of resources if you're interested in sort of getting up to speed with some of this stuff, right? And Yeah, I mean, there's ways you can kind of mix and match. You could use A-frame content to load in extra stuff, even 3D models, GLBs. You could
Yeah, I
use
don't have a PC at the moment, so I'm just a Quest user. So
sure.
it's kind of
So
hard for
I
me to
mean,
do
these
everything. Oh,
yeah these
cool.
these are also on Sketchfab, right? So you don't necessarily have to have a PC to do anything with them. But if you know somebody with a PC, they may be able to download them and put them in place for you, so that you can
hmm
then have them where you want them. I mean, the truth is, right now, the
Stick
best
drift
solution for
is killing
you,
me. Uh,
the best solution is probably an integrated world builder into the game, right? If you absolutely have no access to a PC right now, that is
yeah, no.
probably the best thing that we could have, and we don't have that yet,
Yeah.
unfortunately. So right now, yeah, I mean, trying to work with some of the people who are
Mhm.
already creating spaces, trying to help with ideas or any other support that you can is
All
probably a
right.
good way to kind of I don't know, build that support system of how do
Yeah, I was
you
wanting to do more
get
around
help.
here and start having my own stuff going on.
That's awesome. That's really cool. Well, there's loads of events. Lisa
hmm
does an event once a week on a Thursday, if I remember correctly, showing entry level into things like Blender and Unity. After this event, Aline is doing the 3D Waffle event, which is similar, looking at various different topics in Blender and
Yeah,
in
I have
Unity. And
Blender and Unity knowledge. I used to do
gotcha,
game design in high school. I just don't have
right,
a PC, or I would be doing a lot more.
gotcha. Okay, well,
Yeah.
yeah. I mean, I'm sure that there's plenty of people in here who would be
All right.
open to helping you out.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
Cheers, Cyrus. Awesome. I think at the end of this Space Makers, we should all line up with Barry in the middle and all just gather around him and get a photo. Look at this Horizons avatar. I think it's great. I think it's honestly great. Uh, yeah, I'll be excited to see other people being able to bring their avatars in. And this one was brought in by Aline. Aline, I'd be interested to hear if there were any challenges that you came across when bringing that in, or how hard the process was, given other people might want to do it as well.
I would say it was on average easier than most Sketchfab avatars, but it still did need some complete re-rigging. So there's
Gotcha.
this. But yeah,
So you
it was at
mix a
least
mode.
the default avatar is already in an A pose, but it's a different A pose than Ready Player Me. So
Gotcha.
yeah,
Of course it is.
arms are more straight outwards in a line with the shoulder instead of going forward. So yeah, but after I created now the alignment rig for this type of avatar, and if all the other meta avatars have the same dimensions and uh, aspect ratio of the different limbs, people can just take this rig, throw it on, do the automatic scanning in Blender, and then just press the align button in the Ready Player Me add-on, and they have a Ready Player Me ready avatar.
Awesome. That's cool. Is that something that's easy to share without sharing Barry's avatar, of course? Is that something that could be shared in a blend file that might make it easier for people?
Yes, absolutely.
Awesome. Maybe that's something. I know Dead said typically tends to cover everything and anything avatar related. So I don't know. Maybe that's something that he could cover later in the week. I'm not sure if Dead said is here. I don't see him. But yeah, I think that could be pretty cool, right? God, if we do line up and take a photograph, we're going to have a nice mixture of alt space avatars as well as uh, horizons, right?
All the
It's going to look
platforms.
really interesting. But
That means we need some rec rooms now.
Yeah.
oh well, and big screen and everything,
I was
really,
about to
don't
say,
we?
I could bring my Rec Room avatar over here.
Yeah.
Mm.
It's interesting. I mean, I honestly don't even know where you would start when it comes to trying to extract something like that, right? I don't know. Would it have to be pulled from memory? I don't imagine something like that is fairly easy to access. And I would say there's a certain amount of assembling your avatar from various accessories at runtime that's happening. So kudos to whoever's figured out how to do that on Horizons, I guess. Yeah, maybe they are. Maybe they're isolated in some way and they come in their own all-encompassing bundle that has all of you kind of pre-processed and prepared. It would make sense. It would be a great performance optimization to have that done, but I don't know. It doesn't seem like performance is a very big priority over on Horizons. So maybe that's not the case. But yeah, I'm waffling
Yeah,
now in
they
case
kind of
anybody's
screwed up
unaware.
Horizons recently with their newest
Oh
update.
yeah, I heard about this. There was something
the
stretched or
gray
skewed
key.
about name tags and things were all out of whack or
And like
something. Is
people
that right?
graying out and stuff for like performance
Gotcha.
issue wise. Even though like I wasn't having any performance issues on the Quest 2. And I was like,
Gotcha.
okay.
For every update, something goes wrong.
Yeah.
It
Yeah.
was terrible last night.
Now they're like, yeah, let's just performance base everything and make everyone's avatar gray, like y'all have the flat avatars. But like,
Oh, I wonder where they got that idea from. Am I right?
yeah,
Oh God. Well, we're gonna get rid of the 2D avatars, so we'll be way ahead of them.
Aw.
We're only
Poor
going to use them for
Boogerman.
comical reasons. Like if your avatar gets rolled over, you'll go into the 2D mode and then you'll curl up and float away like a piece of paper.
We already are
Or if you
way
hit a
ahead of
wall
them.
hard enough.
if you die in paintball, your avatar just falls backwards.
Yeah, exactly.
Like
You
a
have to walk
concrete
around
cutout.
for a minute as a flat version of you, and then eventually you've got to blow on your thumb, and then you pop back into your 3D version.
Oh yeah, that would be
look.
cool.
We could totally do that. That's totally possible.
Yeah.
Right, so anybody who's joined late, I'll just remind you we've got a podium here. I'd say it's pretty obvious, but if you do have any questions, anything you'd like to ask, feel free to make your way up the podium onto this slippery, bouncy surface platform here. And yeah, then I'll be happy to answer your question. If you don't have a question, I'm just going to stay up here and just continue talking crap about mad things. Do you know, I could talk a little bit about the avatar system, right? Because we've actually been prototyping stuff over this last week, and I think I've mentioned it loosely to some people here and there, but I could talk about some of the things that we've decided and some of the things that we're thinking about. Like for instance, let's talk about the avatar rig. So we were thinking of going with a 67 bone rig, but not the same as the 67 bone rig that Ready Player Me uses, right? Because they also have a 67 bone rig. I should probably explain that the probably the most widely used rig in the industry is Mixamo, right? So if anybody's familiar with Mixamo.com, it's a free website that was acquired by Adobe a number of years ago that allows you to upload an avatar and it will automatically rig it for you in the cloud, let's say, and then you can just download it and away you go. It gets things like 95% of the way there, and then often you can just correct a few things yourself. But yeah, so Ready Player Me actually started with a Mixamo rig and added 2 extra bones for the eyes. That's what they did. Renamed all the bones, but they were all the same bone configurations. We want to go with a similar option for compatibility purposes, I think, more than anything, to try to make it a smooth transition to be able to import an avatar from Mixamo, from Ready Player Me, for instance, and hopefully convert it across with, a single button, basically. So out of those 67 bones, we're not going to have the 2 for the eyes like Ready Player Me do, because the bones for eyes we find to be pretty restrictive. Unless your eyes actually line up with those bones, then it often just doesn't look right. So most avatars in here use blend shapes for the eyes, right? So blinking or even your mouth opening, all that's all blend shapes. It's not actually using those bones. So we want to get rid of those, and we're actually going to instead add 2 bones for wings. So we plan to have 2 extra bones that will stick off of the spine, and this will be optionally for avatars that want to have wings. Yeah, as I look around, there's actually more people in this space with wings than there usually is when I've said that before. But we have a lot of people who are interested in putting wings onto their avatar. And in future, we're going to have a functional purpose for those wings because you're going to be able to fly in Banter. So we've decided to prepare for that by adding 2 optional bones that you can rig to wings if you've added them onto your avatar. And then as you're flying around in future, we'll automatically animate those bones in order to flap the wings, basically, right? So that's yeah, that's kind of a decision I guess we've made internally now to yeah, to move forward with that as a rig. We're also going to go for a T pose rather than an A pose. So anybody who's familiar with rigging, T poses are easier, but in some instances can be less accurate. For what we need them for, they are perfect, more than enough. We're not talking about a AAA, you know, content where that sort of minutiae is very important. But here in Banter, T-pose is perfect, and it's much easier for people to work with. And we want to make it easier to work with avatars. So we've gone with the T-pose. We talked a lot about expressions at the last Avatar Makers and how those could work. We talked about animations and being able to customize certain animations on the avatar. After we talked about it quite a lot, we agreed internally that blend shapes are actually a pretty powerful utility. So the first thing we want to do is expand on the current set we have. All we're really using is eye blink and mouth open, or jaw flapping, basically. We want to move to a full set of visemes, as they're called, which is various different states of expression that represent, mostly everything you need to do to move your face to talk, so that we can get much more accurate lip sync and you can see what people are saying a lot easier just based on the movement of their mouth. What else do we want to do with that? We also wanted to have a new blend shape introduced just for idle animations. So if you had hair you wanted to be moving, or you had a tail, or you had potentially, your own set of wings, or your maybe some ears, or whatever it is, and you wanted those to just have an idle movement animation, the plan is to have a blend shape that we're just going to animate from 0 to 1 and loop, if you will, almost constantly. So yeah, I think that's going to be a lot of this is really about trying to introduce, like I say, more expression to the avatar and give people more options. We're not quite sure of what form it will take yet, but we're pretty much thinking that we're going to open up a number of custom blend shape slots, right? That you'll be able to effectively trigger. This could be through some maybe wrist mounted menu that you can trigger these different expression states, or maybe it's through some button combinations, or possibly they're triggered externally by something in the world, or yeah, I mean, I think the key there is to be able to have various expressions, right? So if you wanted your avatar to smile, if you wanted your avatar to wink, that could be as simple as a couple of buttons to press it to get it to do that. And then there's a lot of customization in here. As I'm sure you guys know, we have lots of avatars where people are leveraging the blend shapes to do interesting things already, like Peroxide, for instance. As he talks, his eyes will light up, his hood will move in and out, and of course, how could you talk about it without talking about Lee? So as Lee talks, not only do his lips move, as you might expect, his hair goes in and out, his butt vibrates, right? That's important
Right.
stuff. That's
And
important
glasses move.
self-expression.
Very important.
The glasses move. The glasses move is a new one, very new one. Yeah, but something kind of cool that we were talking about internally. We've mentioned a few times that we want to support OSC. And for those of you that are unfamiliar, OSC is a protocol that's used to be able to map sensor data into an application, let's say. It's been popular in VR chat since they implemented it, God, was it late last year, I think? And it allows you to kind of hook up sensor data and have that streamed into the world. And we're excited about being able to connect a similar system to blend shapes so that you could potentially do things like face tracking or other tracking of other body parts. Let's call them toes for now, and not acknowledge it beyond that. But the truth is, it would be an ecosystem for custom tracking solutions that you could bring stuff in and then use it to track different things. And yeah, obviously those things would be on your avatar by default. But who knows, right? There's potentially the opportunity to hook this sort of stuff onto uh, animated blend shapes on other objects in the scene. I'm not too sure. I could be waffling at this point. But in a nutshell, we're pretty excited about the power that blend shapes could bring. And it's really optional, right? It's all baked and built into the avatar. If the avatar has support for it, it will just work. So yeah, I mean, I don't know if anybody has any thoughts around that. If you do, feel free to make your way up to the podium. I'll be happy to answer any questions you could have. Oh, Peroxide's jumping in there.
I got this. Okay, there we go.
Go ahead.
Well, this is a quick question in regards to the bones for wings. Since you were talking about moving away from bones, for on eyes and stuff, is there always not just blend shapes?
Yeah, I mean, it's a good point. It's something that we talked about internally. There is a possibility for us to use blend shapes for that as well, and it would make things more compatible. I guess
Right.
we're still weighing up the options internally as to whether or not Bones would give us any better opportunities there specifically with
Gotcha.
wings. So honestly, I don't know the answer to that, but I can tell you that
nope.
it's not set in
Get it.
stone, and if it proves to be better to just lean into blend shapes and go with a more generic rig, that could be the way that we'll go. I mean, I think for us, it's mostly just about we're going to try to future proof a little bit and try to consider the fact that flying will be a native capability in future, and maybe there's a way that we can support that in the avatars. But yeah, you're
Gotcha.
absolutely right. It could
Yeah,
end
no,
up
I was
being
just
blend
curious.
shapes as well.
Alrighty. Cool.
Go ahead, Aaron Wolf.
Hmm.
Oh no, 20 minutes. 20 minutes.
Yeah, I was
Teleports.
wondering
5-second rule. 5-second rule.
today we have the website for Red Player Me, and the new avatar system is going to be a website as well for a basic avatar models.
Probably not. What we'll likely do is still continue to lean on Ready Player Me for that kind of go to a website and upload your photograph and pick all of your accessories and create your avatar. The reason I say that is because it is a fairly massive undertaking to create all of those different accessories, all of that kind of stuff, and then to create a fully interactive 3D website where you can peruse those and browse those, right? That's something that Ready Player Me has put an enormous amount of work into. I think for us, we want to focus on the core functionality of the avatar system within the game and really put a lot of our energy and resources into that. So I think what's going to happen in future, how do you find these new avatars and how do you use them? Well, if you're familiar with VR chat, then you'll probably find it pretty familiar. We're likely going to have avatar worlds where you can browse worlds and find new avatars that way. You'll also be able to share avatars with other people. So much like you can spawn a portal, you'll be able to maybe spawn an avatar that people can jump into, or one person can jump into and equip onto themselves, right? So this is what we're going to prioritize right now, rather than trying to build out a whole big catalog of accessories and trying to be as opinionated about that as possible. The fully custom route is actually the much more optimized route for us just now, whereas the accessories we'd have to figure out a way how to combine all of those things and make it all into a single object so that it's as performant as it can be at runtime. And that's another thing that Ready Player Me have put a lot of work into. So yeah, I hope that answers your question. Maybe in future, I'll never say never, but for this current phase of Avatar overhaul, that's not planned.
an idea I got there when he was talking is that you can have a catalog on the website or somewhere else, or you have piece and piece. How do you say it? Parts of avatars where you can download them and add them to your avatar build. Like if someone likes to have common wings, and then you can just have them on the website, and people can download them, add them to the hero avatar in before you load it up to.
Yeah, I mean, there's lots of possibilities here. We've talked about having a catalog in the menu where you can just flick through pages and pages of avatars to browse them that way. That could be an easy way to do it in the short term. But I guess how the discovery and how the sharing of assets and resources comes together for all of this, we're trying not to impose on that too much and trying to kind of, I guess, let that happen almost organically on its own a little bit, if you know what I mean. So then we can rally around that rather than trying to, make too many assumptions, right, at this stage. So, yeah, I mean, I think right now the Discord is usually a great place for us to kind of share resources. We recently kind of combined the Avatar and the Space Maker section. So there's a share something useful section in there that'll probably see a lot of this stuff shared too. And yeah, I mean, some of the stuff we've been talking about, like the rigging for the Horizon avatars and stuff like that. We'll probably share all of that in there. So that'll be a good place to keep an eye on if you're interested in, where can I find some cool extra bits and pieces that I can use with my avatar, right?
Thank you, Shane.
Yeah, no problem. Thank you. Oh, no.
Oh, fuck. Oh, fudge.
I don't think fudge is a word that we allow here.
Could you talk a little bit more on triangle count for uploaded avatars in the future?
Yes, absolutely, I can. So with the prototyping we've been doing, we've kind of identified that there's really two avatars for every one avatar, right? And what I mean by that is you've got your local version that you see, and then you've got the remote version that you see on everybody else, right? And for each avatar, there's how you see yourself, and then how everybody else sees you. And yeah, we've decided that for your own local avatar, there's only really ever one of those. That removes a lot of scale problems. So for us, that means that we can really open up the number of polys that you want to have. So right now, we're talking about your local avatar having a limit of 120,000 polys, which is considerably higher than anything we've ever done before. But like I say, it's just you, it's just your local one. So there's actually already a lot of control in there. Now, for the remote version, right? So what everybody else sees of you, that's actually going to have several tiers of poly count built in. Now, don't worry, you don't have to do all of these. It's what our Blender plugin is going to do for you. But the lowest LOD, or the highest quality version, is going to be limited at 30,000 polys. And then from there, our tool is going to generate another 3 versions, maybe, probably 3 maximum, that will be tiered at like 15,000 polys, 5,000 polys, and then the lowest one, which is right now 500 polys. And that one's likely going to replace the need for having a 2D sprite, right? So the 2D renders of our avatars will disappear and will be replaced with that. Now, like I say, the only ones you really have to worry about is the first one. And our Blender plugin is going to handle converting for the 30,000, the 15,000, the 5,000, and the 500. It's going to do, hopefully, all of that for you automatically. There are some gotchas there, particularly around blend shapes and maintaining blend shapes in between decimating. That's what you call that, where you reduce the poly count on the avatar. But we've got some solutions that are able to preserve the areas that blend shapes are using and mold, basically weld them over onto the decimated avatar, making sure that the total count is still under the total limit. So yeah, I hope that answers your question. And yeah, in a nutshell, we'll be pushing a lot of people towards this new process if they want to make their avatars. So we're making it both for people who are a bit more seasoned with Blender, but also those who have never come across it in their life, right? So we want it to be sort of 1, 2, 3 kind of clicks, and maybe you're done at that point. And yeah, hopefully it should be a simple workflow if you're familiar with Blender or not. So I hope that answers your question, Lee.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, yeah. If anybody has any follow-up questions, feel free to make your way up, or else I'm going to pick somebody at random and ask them a random question. I'm looking at you, Lolly D.
No, don't look at me. I just got here.
Well, tell us, what do you treasure?
Oh my gosh.
Ooh, wow.
Oh my
Deep,
god. You mean
right?
like of everything, or are we talking
Yeah.
about here, like in the world? What do I treasure?
Maybe we're on the streets. I've just come up. I've put a microphone in your face, and I've said, "Hey, you're live to the nation. Tell us, what do you treasure?"
Friendships and love and partnerships, things like that.
Awesome. That's a pretty good answer. Nice. Thank you for that. Okay. This is the awkward bit, right? That I love, which is just where I waffle on and you guys all stand there. Maybe, yeah, maybe in future we could have this as more of an open conversation. I did actually quite enjoy that the last day at the Avatar Makers because despite what you might think, I'm not actually overly fond of the sound of my own voice. But yeah, if anybody has any questions about anything related to space making or avatar making, right? I guess it's all overlapped at this point, or anything for that matter, right? Let's just open it right up. I will answer any questions that I can. Oh, here comes Elle to wreck the day. Go ahead.
So, we talked a little bit about it earlier in this one and whatnot, and Barry is a very good example on a thing. Do we want to try to make it a little bit easy to like help people coming from, for example, Horizon to get it like more like their own avatar in Horizon, or if they come from VR chat, if there is a possibility that we can like help them towards like making the avatar that they might have used in VR chat like in an easier way. Like right now, Barry had to rely a little bit on Eileen to make it happen, but could it be a thing for us to see if we can, if we manage to get the typical file from Horizon, if there's an easy implementation to put it in the new avatar system for Banter, for example.
Yeah.
So, because like I can envision there, and I remember feedback from months ago from someone saying, I want to look like myself, like I'm doing in Horizon. I'm very proud of the character I have in Horizon. However, the option I had in Ready Player Me did not reflect me as a person I want to be. So that was one of their like feedback, and
Yeah.
hence my question for that.
Yeah, that's a really good question. Actually, we talked about this a little bit earlier on. So if I miss anything out that I said earlier, that'll be on the live stream. So feel free to check that out. But it's worth going over again, I think, because we talked about Dead Zed and his regular events teaching people to make avatars. But before Dead Zed was here, so maybe we can go over that a little bit again. Yeah. So in a nutshell, Eileen had created some assets and resources there to be able to make that process easier. We're hoping to share those on the Discord, and maybe, like I say, we could convince Dead Zed to do an example, maybe with a different avatar. Dead Zed might be able to do something at his event to demonstrate how to bring that in and to get it set up and ready to go. So yeah, I totally agree with you. I think when it comes to other platforms, it really depends on where your avatar is coming from as to how much work might be involved, right? With platforms like VR Chat and I don't know, I guess others like Chill Out VR or Neos or Resonite, right? The new incarnation of that that involve a Unity-based workflow. It's not impossible to take your avatar out of there and bring it into Banter, but there might be a little bit more work, especially when it comes to trying to find out how to make your avatar look the same. It certainly goes without saying that VR chat is kind of like the kitchen sink when it comes to how much you can do with your avatar. We don't have a similar approach here. We want to try and make sure that we prioritize performance and frame rate and reduce the possibility of crashing if possible through the avatar system. So for here, it's a little bit more limited, and there's going to have to be some compromises to be made there. And I'm not sure how much you could really automate that, given that avatars are so unique. Really, they could be anything, right? So that's just specific to those platforms that lean on Unity-based workflows to create the avatars. There might be a little bit more work, but in all honesty, exporting it as an FBX and sort of seeing how far you can get with that is going to give you a taste as to how far you're going to get with it in Banter. But when it comes to, let's say, avatars like the old Altspace avatars or Berry's avatar, kindly he's up on the pedestal here for everybody to see. Those people seem to have been able to get their hands on them in the form of an FBX, which straight away, you can just load straight up into Blender. And as Aline said, it was actually easier than trying to take an avatar from the likes of Sketchfab and completely rigging and weight painting it from scratch. So yeah, we'll see if we can maybe share some resources. We'll see if we can collaborate with the community to embrace our new users and have them be comfortable in their own skin. Because we're lucky here on Banter to have a custom avatar system that makes that possible. So why not? Why not lean into that?
I was thinking because Tokra tried to do it from scratch, making Meta Voices avatar, for example. Right.
Gotcha.
And that was not as successful as Barry, if that makes sense. Like Barry is like that is him in Horizon. I can verify that. I've seen him in Horizon, right? That's spot on. Whilst the one that Tokra made, he made it using existing ones and just altered them a little bit and made it look more familiar. But having one that getting an FBX and whatnot, I don't know how easy it is to get an FBX though. That would be nice to figure out if it's easy to get an FBX from Horizon. Do you know anything about that, Barry?
Yes.
How to get an FBX?
Is my microphone on? Yeah.
Yeah, your megaphone. Yeah, go ahead.
Oh, perfect. So there is a gal who actually is doing some things in Banter as well. But she's very proficient in Horizon Worlds and has been building there for a long, long time. So I asked if she would do it, and she did it. And I don't know what her schedule is like in terms of being able to produce a lot. But I think I've also asked her if she could release the information on how to do it, whether you need to be part of the early access program approved by Meta before you have access to that tool. So I'm going to find that out, and I will get back to you on it for sure.
Awesome. That's great.
Appreciate it.
There you go. So stay tuned, I think, is the best advice there, but things are looking pretty positive.
Could I jump on this, Shane, if I'm megaphoned?
Yeah, go ahead. You are.
So I've kind of been talking with Barry about getting the avatar in here, first of all. And I found a way of getting said FBX from the Unity SDK for Horizon World itself.
Right.
There's a small loophole you have to go and find, but I'll most probably be covering that, yes, in one of my avatar creations at some point.
Awesome. There you go. Yeah, well, the wheels are in motion. The community is full steam ahead. So that's awesome. Okay. Well, sure, look, we'll move on. Divine, go ahead, your megaphone.
Okay, so the last few days I've been talking to a few people about this because I'm not sure why they haven't been made yet, but I've heard a few people say confetti guns, you know, something to do confetti. And the reason why I'm not sure why is because in Bob's workout room where he does the what is it, the Just Dance ones, um,
Sure.
he's got
Wolf's
the
Den.
confetti that he has come out in the back of the TV. So I'm like, why
Yes.
can't we turn that into a confetti gun? Like, he presses a button, doesn't he, to get it to come out?
Sure.
So why can't we
I
do
mean,
that?
there's no reason why not. Yeah, I mean, there's literally no reason why not. I was actually having a conversation with Designer Girl about this just the other day about functional prefabs, right? And I think that probably
Yeah,
falls under that
yeah, for
umbrella
sure.
of being able to just have some generic objects that you can kind of pull into your space. I should probably talk about kit bundles a little bit because I feel like this is very much in that realm of kit bundles. And very briefly, what kit bundles are, it's like a collection of objects that you can bring into a space. So normally you would bring in your entire scene into a space, but kit bundles allows you to bring in, you know, a pack or a kit of extra objects that you can use in your space. And these objects could be functional objects, right? A great example is the selfie camera at the rear of the space here is loaded into this space using a kit bundle. And it's a functional object. You can take 6K photos that will actually get stored into your device's gallery. So that's about as functional as it can get in terms of being able to have native access to stuff. But in the future, with SDK v2, there's going to be lots of ways to embed functionality into kit bundles themselves. You can use visual scripting graphs using Unity's visual scripting system. Uh, we haven't fully worked it out yet, but there'll also be ways to just attach JavaScript, arbitrary JavaScript to an object that will get run whenever that object is kind of set up, right? So that gives you a whole lot of power, really, to be able to create anything. You could have a confetti cannon that fires every time Elon Musk says something racist on Twitter, right? You could have things that are hooked up to all sorts of crazy things, right? Except for in that case, I don't think
Oh
there's going to be.
man.
We're going to run out of confetti pretty soon. But yeah, I mean, having functional objects, you know, being able to pick up things, being able to interact with them, being able to shoot things, being able to, yeah, all sorts of objects that you could have in your space. Some things, I guess, are probably more they're more fundamental and harder to recognize, let's say, right? Because you could have maybe a mirror kit that has a collection of mirrors, or you could have a camera kit, which allows you to install camera systems into your space. You could have a video player kit, for instance, and we kind of have one of those already that Aline has created that allows you to have all of the Crystal Lake craziness embedded into any world. You can transplant it into any world you like with very limited knowledge. In fact, no Unity knowledge. But yeah, I hope that answers your question. You're absolutely right. These things should
Yes, it
exist.
did.
It's
Yeah.
just a matter of us now, I guess, creating them. And yeah, if anybody is thinking about this sort of stuff, I mean, SDK v2 is so imminently upon us now that the best bet would be to hang fire and get a look at that before you start to really dig into stuff like that, right? So you can get the full benefit of all of those new features that's going to have. But yeah, I mean, uh, we've also talked about a marketplace for kit bundles and being able to sort of go and find them and discover them easily enough. So you could have all sorts of things like, you know, whatever, pool tables or leaderboards or, you know, all sorts of things that you can just dump into various spaces and be able to use them. Cards Against Humanity, all that kind of stuff. But yeah, once SDK v2 is out, hopefully it will be easier and we'll dabble ourselves and hopefully create a few here and there too.
Awesome. Thank
Hey,
you.
designer girl, how you doing?
Hello. Okay, this is a rarity. I hate asking questions in public, so bear with me.
Oh
We
boy.
were talking about kit bundles. I'm really excited about that and functional, kit bundles as well. I just wondered if there would be possible to have any sort of unusual shader bundles that, in addition to standard, maybe some funky ones or some rain ones or specialist shaders. But the one I'm struggling with at the moment is in my worlds, I use a lot of transparency. I know I'm kind of getting that with Autodesk Interactive, but I'm still having trouble with the transparent cutout shaders. And also, that's the second question. What would you recommend me to use for a transparent cutout item? And also, the other question was about the kits. If you're planning
Gotcha.
to bring any shader kit things, sorry, I hope that makes sense.
No, you're absolutely fine. Yeah, I mean to answer your question, yeah, shader kits are absolutely something that will work in Banter, right? You'll be able to load up a kit bundle, load up all of the shaders will basically be available then for you to set using the shader name on any materials that you kind of want to, let's say. We need to figure out some logistics there in terms of making sure things are all loading at the right same time and that, Unity can access and use those sorts of things. But generally, with asset bundles, once you've got everything loaded in the right order, then things just generally tend to work. So yeah, hopefully that will be a fairly seamless thing to do, and people can share shaders like that. And on your point about transparency shaders, my best advice there, and this goes to anybody, in fact. Right now, we have sort of a strange set of shader variants in the build for all of the standard Unity shaders, right? Which makes it difficult sometimes when you use those shaders, they may actually get replaced with our variants at runtime. This is something we do plan to hopefully correct in the future, but right now, it's a bit of a backwards compatibility thing that we don't want to remove them and risk breaking people's worlds. But the solution to that is just always use a custom shader. Try to avoid the built-in shaders into Unity if you can. Honestly, generally that's good advice. The Unity standard shader itself is massively overbloated and as a result isn't performant at all, especially when it comes to mobile devices and stuff like that. But uh, right now there's a shader works section in the Discord where everybody is sharing shaders for various different things, and I'm pretty sure there's a transparent cutout shader
Oh, I have
in
missed
there
that. I'm so
that
sorry
you can
because I said
you
I've
can grab.
been away. Yeah.
No,
Oh,
no,
excellent.
absolutely.
Cool.
Yeah, definitely. There's also Share Something Useful. It's another channel in there where there's loads of things in there, tools, utilities,
Nice.
Blender, plugins and stuff like that. But yeah, specifically ShaderWorks is the name of the section if you wanted to take a look in
Uh-huh.
there and see if something can help you out.
Great. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Yeah, no problem. Thank you.
Hey.
Hey, Kurt.
Oh,
Oh
whoops,
no,
I'm gonna
back to
fall
the
off.
start.
All right, I'm on 2D, whatever. Okay. My base, on the same topic of shaders. I'm just trying to understand why was it that shaders that worked in the previous version don't want to work now? I didn't understand what's going on. What would make those shaders stop working? Because I was
What
using side
shaders?
by side, stereoscopic shaders, and they just don't want to work for me now. I didn't know what happened between the old version and the new version.
Yeah, honestly, I'm not sure. There really shouldn't be anything major that would have broken between the versions that would have affected shaders like that. I believe we do have a side-by-side shader in ShaderWorks. If we don't, I can
Yeah, I
get that
tried
to
it,
you
and
and put
I'm
it in
getting the
there.
same result, and it's driving me nuts. It's just like
What's wrong with it?
Yeah,
it
that's
just comes up
actually
pink, and it's invisible on Android, and it's just it's strange. I tried the different shaders, and I don't know if it's maybe do I need a different version of the SDK maybe for it to work? I don't know. I have no clue. Maybe it's just an
Aline, you were going
SDK
to say
version
something?
problem.
no, you shouldn't. Question: did someone else you brought to the space had the same experience?
Oh.
I think that question's for you, Kurt.
Oh,
Hello,
okay. I
are you
didn't
still there?
understand. No, I didn't discuss it with anybody else.
Have you showed someone else the space and they encountered the same problem?
I posted the space up there if anybody wanted to test it out. But what I ended up doing is I just removed it from the world for right now. But I'll have to come readdress it later. I guess I was wait for SDK2 to see if it fixes it. It won't be too much of an issue. But I just, it'll get resolved, I assume. But I was surprised that it just stopped wanting to work for me. So, all right, thank you. That was it.
Have you got any follow-up thoughts, Aline? You seemed like you had a
Yeah,
line of
I
inquiry there.
already looked into it, but I couldn't find any issues on my side. That's why I'm asking.
Yeah, I know. You said you
someone
showed me your
else.
world. I tested it out. Yours worked, which is strange. It's just so I'm wondering if it's my SDK. Something's going on there. So maybe version 2 will fix it.
I don't think the SDK would affect that. In fact, we're all running on SDK v2 right now. So we're
Right. But
already
for the
running on the
upload
new.
kit, right? The upload kit's gonna be different, right?
Shouldn't matter. No,
Oh,
shouldn't matter.
shouldn't.
Certainly
Oh,
not. Wouldn't be anything that would affect shaders in that way. Yeah, I
okay.
mean, I would say see if you can share the shader with us. Let's have a look at it. Depending on how it was done, there are some things that we did deprecate in the old system, right? There was a list going around that showed some things that were deprecated. So there could have been a third-party dependency we removed to try and do a bit of housekeeping that might have included a shader that's now gone, right? But
Yeah,
the
because
solution there
I
is
did use third party on a lot of stuff. It was there's an upload tool called Piglet, and it had its own shaders. It's like the Sketchfab tool uploader tool that had its own shaders too.
Gotcha.
So I don't know if those are broken too. I haven't tested that, but I know my Piglet one is. So they stopped working.
Sure.
Yeah, but
So
Piglet
I know
is a GLTF loading
Yeah, for
library, a
GLTF
paid
loading. Yeah.
GLTF loading library. Yes, we also used to use that in the past, but we've actually migrated away from it in order to try and remove the need for any third-party paid dependencies in the new
Right.
SDK. The reason for that is because we're exploring being able to open source the new SDK, and proprietary dependencies is a big problem whenever you're trying to do that. So there's a possibility that some Piglet shaders may have been excluded. That could explain some of what you're experiencing. But honestly, I would say the best thing is if we've got one that works and you can
Yeah.
slap that in there and that can work, happy days. That's kind of
Yep.
the mode that we're in right now, is to seek out problems and try and solve them, even if it involves having to modify things, right? Rather than
Right.
a couple of weeks
I just
ago,
have to get
everything was
better at
really about,
shaders too, myself, at creating them.
yeah.
So
Well, there's lots of resources that will be able to help you there. I know that
Yep, I
internally
appreciate
we're
it.
fans of Amplify, right? It's a
Yeah,
great
I just purchased
visual.
Amplify, so now it's it's all another can of worms to learn. So
There you go.
all right,
Great.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
No problem. A lot of the shaders we're sharing probably include the Amplify section at the bottom, so they should load up in Amplify, and you'll get the full node graph for them as well. So
Okay,
yeah,
great.
check out some of the shaders that are on that are in that shader work section, and if that specific stereo one isn't there, we'll share that, and you can get a look at that. And like I say, all the ones that we've been working with, we generally try to get them across into Amplify so that Aline can work on them later without having to
Great.
deal with code, because Aline hates code. We're all aware
Yeah.
of that. But yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, look, let's catch up on Discord after this, and maybe we can share a shader that might help solve those problems for you, Kurt.
Sounds good. Thank you.
Cheers. Awesome. Okay, we are actually 4 minutes over and into the next event at this stage. So Shoseki, I'm sure, is eager to wrap things up. So I'll do that. So first of all, thanks everybody for coming. This is our Space Makers. Next week we're doing Avatar Makers, even though we talked a lot about avatars today. But yeah, we generally do this once a week where you can come, hang out, and chat about probably pretty much anything. After this, we've got the 3D waffle time with Aline, where, yeah, I don't know, Aline, should we just jump in there and maybe you can kick things off in that space and introduce what we're going to look at today? So, like we
Yeah,
usually
sure.
do, let's start slamming down some portals there and jump into that next world. And thank you very much in the meantime, everybody. I'll see you in there.
Yep.